Hello. So I'm coming to you with a quick review of the new Fashionary Portfolio book. So I'm a big fan of Fashionary books. I've been using one since probably 2014, since I got my first one here. So this is their usual size, and you'll notice that the portfolio is twice as large. So I find that very handy. So let's start off with a quick little review of what they have in the Fashionary book. So at the beginning of the book, you'll have just general information that's very useful for anybody that does sewing. So standard measurements, standard terms for different types of clothing. Here we have different types of skirts, leotards and necklines. Just a lot of nice general information that's very handy to know. Even different types of patterns that you'll find in fabric. Washing instructions. Just a lot of nice little handy stuff. And it's basically the exact same information from what I gather from looking through both of the books that's available at the beginning of this one. Just laid out on bigger paper. So see the washing instructions again, hairstyles, different types of stitches, shoes, etc., etc. So I find that this information is just really good to know in a general sense. I sometimes forget different terms for things, so it's good to just have it handy. So if you're looking for some tutorials or something online, you can just look at it in here, look for it online, and see what you can find. So my biggest issue that I had with the original Fashionary book is that what it's mainly used for is these little patterns that you have. It's just a little very faint drawing so that you can do your sketches for your designs. So they're usually laid out in sets of 3 on each page. I'm just going to pull up one in case it's hard to see. And they're usually staggered like so. So oftentimes I run into the issue that there's not enough space between the designs to fit what you want, and if one of the patterns are a little bit higher up, you might have a hard time putting anything on their head, if you have any headgear or headdress. So that was always a little bit of a tricky thing for me, but it's still, I love these books. Like, it's one of my favorite useful resources that I use on a regular basis. So I always like to sketch out designs, and if I didn't have enough space, I would just, skip one pattern and draw 2 on the outer sides. So even as far back as designing my Queen Barrel back in the day. So it is a handy resource, and the bulk of the book is for doing those designs. Like, I haven't ever really put that much of a dent in this one, to be honest, but I decided to upgrade and get the other one. So it comes with a nice little elastic to keep it shut, and I find this one's really handy for traveling. When I'm on a flight, I can just sketch out some ideas. So the new Fashionary book, much larger, has the same information at the front, so you're not necessarily going to be learning anything new if you have one of the regular Fashionary books. But what is super handy is that it comes with the patterns drawn out all along the length of the page, so they're not staggered up and down, and you get 4 templates per page for a grand total of 8 if you hold out the page. So what's very amazing is you can do some thematic designing, like so. So I wanted to do a space-themed collection, I guess you can call it. Planning on making a Cosmog Gijinka and an Aurora space-themed dress. So here are some ideas that I kind of sketched out here. And one of the big selling points of this book is that it is meant to be able to handle markers, watercolor, just anything that you can throw at it. So I used Copic markers for these designs, and it was actually very, very easy to sketch on it. Blends well, soaks up the color very well. I was able to blend the colors in with the pens. It was pretty easy to use, and I didn't really run into any issues. And one of the main selling points they say is that it's bleed proof. So this is the following page, and you don't really see any of the black ink carrying over from the other page. Maybe you can faintly kind of see the outline of the designs, but besides that, it's not really showing through, which is a really impressive. So I quite like that the designs are laid out like this. I feel as if I can kind of keep my train of thought and kind of design a collection more so. You can keep with the theme, because whenever I do original designs, I tend to have a little bit of a tricky... I never really go with the first design that I come up with. It kind of goes through a cycle. So you could kind of come up with ideas, almost like a collection for the one thing that you're going for, and you can just kind of work and build on it. And it's kind of good to see everything all in one place, as opposed to with the smaller book you kind of have to flip through the pages to figure out what you've come up with and what you're kind of leaning towards. You know, not a huge inconvenience, but it's kind of nice to see it all in one place. And I gotta say that I'm very happy with this book, but Fashionary, you know, doesn't usually let me down. Big fan of their stuff. I also got their Fashionpedia book a few years back. This was a really good investment. This is really useful for anybody who likes design, likes fashion. Also for cosplayers, this is just kind of a very, very handy resource for just learning a lot of technical information when it comes to sewing and fashion. So as I was mentioning that there's like a quick little reference information at the beginning of those Fashionary books, that's basically the entirety of this one. So you can learn about fashion through the decades and historical fashion briefly. It gets into really technical definitions about the different styles of clothing and different items, so like breaking down what's in a jacket, what's in a skirt, what's in a, you know, pair of pants, and the different types of pockets and all this other stuff. It even gets into the description about how fabric is made and the different properties that go into different types of fabric. But we're gonna leave it at that. I have a full review up on my website if you're curious to know what I, you know, think thoroughly about the Fashionpedia book. But just in a general sense, the Fashionary line of books, and I find very, very useful and handy, and I think it would be a great resource for many cosplayers to use. So if you want to get yourself a copy, sometimes you can get them off of Amazon. I find in Canada it's a little bit harder to get your hands on them. Like my first Fashionary book, I bought it in a bookstore in New York because that was the only place I could find it. And the Fashionpedia book I got from their Kickstarter. And lastly, this one I got directly from their website, which isn't too bad. If you buy enough things, you can get free shipping even internationally. So I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments, and happy cosplaying!